Manchester United dropped more crucial points away from home at Crystal Palace. Very disappointing result. Join me now for Manchester United, the D Unit's view. Look, the game on Saturday, disappointing, really. It's the best place to start off with, I'd suggest. Look, the first half, United played so well. They dominated Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace were on the ropes the entirety of that first half. Unfortunately, the thing that has been lacking consistently across Erik ten Hag's 3 seasons, 2 and a bit seasons, whatever you want to call it, into his 3rd season now, has been goals. Like, we are just simply, quite frankly, not clinical enough. And that is the sole reason we did not walk away with 3 points on the weekend. That's pretty much what it comes down to. If you are not clinical in games of football in the Premier League, it is likely to come back and haunt you. And we were super lucky in the end that Crystal Palace didn't actually nick it. And we'll get to the reasons as to why that was the case as we move along across the show. But look, I really want to focus on what we did see. The first half, and I was surprised. I was surprised. I was surprised that Eriksen started this game, his 3rd game in a week that he started. But look, you can understand why he did it. The creativity that Eriksen brings, and Bruno Fernandes, let's be fair, he had an off day. Like, he had a real off day. I actually thought that after he got his couple of assists in midweek that we were going to see probably the best of Bruno. But unfortunately, we saw probably some of the worst of Bruno in this particular game. He wasn't quite at it. He hit the crossbar as well, which, I feel like Bruno in top form would have just slotted that and the rebound would have gone in and United would have had the lead. But look, I was glad to see Garnacho keep his spot, and I was glad that Ahmad made it back into his team. And I suppose we might as well talk about it now because there's been rumours. Why was Rashford on the bench when he just scored 3 goals in the last 2 games in spite of a week, and he's a bloke that just plays well on form? And look, there's merits to looking at both arguments. So look, Erik ten Hag has basically come out and said there's nothing to it, and he was getting annoyed at the media suggesting that there'd been a falling out, or he dropped Rashford because he'd done something at training, or they'd had a bust up or something like that. He denied all of that. He was actually very supportive of Rashford and basically said that it's just a matter of squad rotation. And that would make sense because Rashford is the only one of those players at the front that hasn't had any rest starting from the bench this past week. All the rest started from the bench in one of the 2 games. So that argument makes a lot of sense. Now, as I said before, I would have really loved to have seen Rashford playing from the front as the number 9, as he did against Barnsley in the Carabao Cup, mainly because of the fact that he doesn't work back. Rashford's never been a good tracker. He's a bit like when we used to have Ronaldo, and Rooney used to do all the covering for Ronaldo, because we all know that Ronaldo, it's not one of his strengths, doesn't like tracking back. It's safe to say Marcus Rashford is pretty bad at tracking back as well. You only have to go back to some of the videos that were put up last year of Rashford's tracking back. It's pretty damn average. Let's be fair. He's not in the team to track back. He's in there to score goals. And does he finish some of the chances that were squandered? You would have to think that probably he does. And that was why I think after the reflection at the end of the game about how we ended up in a draw and didn't score, I think with that being said, I feel like Rashford probably should have started the game because you need to score goals. That is how you win football games. That's how you pick up the points, is scoring goals. United have mastered one thing, it has to be said, and we'll talk about that now. The defence looks so much better than what we saw last year. Now, it probably helps that most of them are fit. And when you've got fit defenders, they get the familiarity of playing with each other, the patterns of play, who's going to mark, who's going to go up in the air, who's going to cover on the ground. All those things all come into play, and the more familiarity you get playing with the same back 4 week in, week out, the more likelihood it is that you're going to be pretty good at keeping clean sheets. I mean, let's go back to when Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof were the starting centre-back pairing. And United's defence was actually not too bad. But that's because they played week in, week out with each other. So they sort of knew who was going to do what. And that definitely helps. And I think that we're seeing that consistency with the starting 4. And subsequently, we're not conceding anywhere near as many goals, which is good because we've now played Crystal Palace away from home and Brighton away from home. And other than the couple of momentary lapses against Brighton, we haven't conceded. So that's good. That's a really good, strong, positive place to build upon moving forward over the next coming weeks. But I just want to go back to the forward line. Like, we can't be not scoring. Like that first half against Palace, we dominated, and then all of a sudden they got it. I think they had one chance, in the first half that I recall. And in fairness, Eze should have done better. Like the chances that Crystal Palace actually made, they had 4 shots on target, and we'll get to the second half in a little bit. But, United had 15 shots, all right, and 6 of ours were on target, and we didn't score. And we hit the post at the crossbar multiple times. I think that says all you need to know. That Crystal Palace team have not won a game this season for a reason, and that is because of the fact that they haven't been very good. Their defence has not been good, and it was, look, honestly, it almost felt like a defeat because it was 2 points absolutely squandered. And we'll get into the reasons why I was disappointed come the second half. But the first half, there wasn't much to complain about other than the fact that we did not score a goal. The play was good, the pressing, everything you wanted to do, everything that I think Ten Hag was looking to move towards, it was all on display. And it looked, to be fair, actually looked pretty good. There's no denying that at all. But yeah, look, that's where, as I said, if you don't take your chances, this is what happens. It comes back, bites you on the ass. In the second half, we got to a point in the game where all of a sudden Erik Ten Hag started making changes. Now, in the first season at the helm, Erik Ten Hag's subs normally paid off. Like, I remember so many games where we were at bang average in the first half and he made a sub or like 1 or 2 changes in the second half. All of a sudden we went on and won the game, like by a goal. Normally we got lucky and won by a goal. But since that first season, his subs have increasingly not worked. And again, that was the case on Saturday night. Unfortunately, every sub that he seemed to make the team progressively worse. I think that's the best way of putting it. So, look, I did say that I would have liked to have seen Rashford start other than Xerxes, but Xerxes' performance in the first half was amazing. His pressing was brilliant. His link-up play, absolutely top-notch. As I said, the only thing that's missing is the finishing. And it was clear that when Rashford came on for Xerxes, that all of a sudden the pressing dropped off, which is understandable. We know Marcus Rashford doesn't like to press. So that means that some of the other players either have to pick up the slack or they've got to play slightly differently. But they should have just gone to what they were doing on Wednesday night, because that's how they destroy Barnsley, like playing that way. It just didn't happen. For whatever reason, that sub, and that was the only one that looked like the logical thing, because like Marcus Rashford is probably, the form he's been in this week, you'd expect him to put away some of the chances that we created, particularly in the first half. Unfortunately, I don't think Rashford actually had a shot that I can recall in that second half. Palace were a much better team after the break, but I think that's because we progressively made these changes and it actually allowed Palace to come into the game. So then the next 2 changes we made then were Eriksen came off for Ugarte and Højlund came on for Ahmad. Now, I didn't like that at all, because I think Ahmad... So if you look at Ahmad, Rashford and Garnacho, and if they're all playing on the wings, Rashford and Garnacho are very similar in terms of they want to run past the ball, they don't really want to take players on, they just want to use their speed to get in behind and go to goal. Ahmad, on the other hand, is very creative. He doesn't mind the ball at his feet, he'll come back inside, he'll look for a pass. He actually created 2 chances and Garnacho created none. I mean, Garnacho should have scored, but I think that just goes to show. So, and this is what I'm saying, Garnacho played the full 90 minutes. So when they took Ahmad off in the second half to accommodate bringing on Højlund, which makes sense because he's back from injury. Would have been great if he could have got a goal. But as I said before, if those other players are on, no one is going to create the chances for him because they aren't those kind of players. Ahmad is actually the one that needs to be on the field in order to get Højlund those chances. So I did understand the reasoning behind taking Ahmad off. That was my criticism. And when Garnacho then swapped to the right to allow Rashford to go on the left so Højlund could play up front, I'm telling you, the last half an hour, Garnacho did next to nothing out there. I don't actually know what he did when he was out there on the right wing, but he looked anonymous, and I actually thought that he made the wrong choice. If he was going to make those subs, it should have actually been Garnacho that comes off for Ahmad. Sorry, no, not for Ahmad, for Højlund. So that way, Ahmad stays on the right, And you got that balance. You got the one person on one side wanting to run in behind, then Ahmad obviously can do the opposite on the other side. And I think that those changes actually made the team worse. And then obviously you took off the creativity, and Eriksen was definitely the most creative spark in that team on the weekend for Ugarte. Now, Ugarte and Eriksen are two polar opposite type of players. Ugarte is like a bull terrier, goes in, wins the ball, makes the short passes, but he's not making those progressive passes that Eriksen was looking to make for our runners over the top. So then that made the play more predictable for Palace, who then grew into the game. And those were the reasons why. Like, these changes actually, they benefited Palace. They actually gave the initiative over to Palace. And in the end, we were actually very lucky, very fortunate that Andre Onana had one of those games in goal where he was brilliant. Like, his double save, especially the second part of the double save, where he stopped, I think, Eze, and I think the other bloke was, it was the sub that came on for Palace. I can't remember their name. Sarr, that's the one. Ismail Sarr. How he saved that, I've got no idea. The reflexes to get up for that second save and just get some sort of a hand to it, unbelievable goalkeeping. Unbelievable goalkeeping. Like, that's probably the best save I think I've seen Onana make. That's how good it was. Let me know in the comments if you've actually seen one that you think looks better, because I can't personally think that I can recall one that, was better than that. It was absolutely a fantastic save, and it was brilliant. Brilliant to watch, brilliant to see. But look, yeah, the other subs, I don't think we actually made any more subs. I think we just made the 4 from memory. But yeah, look, that was just disappointing. This is how much they dominated the game. And this was the one real positive thing, is that United bossed this game. They had 67% possession. I would have thought that we would have gone to Palace and had 67% possession, and Palace had 11 players on the field. Like, it's a sign that whatever Ten Hag is trying to implement is working. It's just the final bit, the most crucial bit of football is scoring goals. And he just hasn't mastered that. Or we don't have the players to do it, or the consistency, or whatever. Like, the passes completed were 221 for Palace to 547 for us. So our pass accuracy was huge. Like, it was brilliant. And obviously, Crystal Palace won more tackles because they barely had the ball. But look, that was the disappointing bit. And look, it's a disappointing result. We're now 2 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses after 5 games, and that leaves us bang where I expect us to probably finish. 11th. I think we'll finish in the top half, but I actually think that at best United are a mid-table team at the moment. Like, I actually think the 8th spot at the moment could probably be our lot in life. And the main reason why is because we just don't score enough goals. And if you're not scoring goals, you aren't winning games. And if you're relying on a 1-0 win every week, it's going to be fraught with danger, and you're probably going to lose more points if you can't start kicking goals. So look, it was good to see him score 3 away at Southampton, but Southampton, as we've already covered last week, absolutely rubbish. And then Barnsley are Barnsley. They're not Barcelona, as we said previously. 7-0 against them, got to be taken with a fair bit of pinch of salt. This game was, as I said, was going to be a much tougher test. The good news is, at least we exacted some small bit of revenge, because it wasn't another 4-0 thumping like it was last year. But, 0-0 isn't really good enough, considering that Palace have started this. This was a great time to play Palace. Let's not kid ourselves. They have not won a game of football in 5 games now. They were there for the taking. United just didn't take them. That's pretty much where it is. That's where it all comes down to at the end of the day. So look, that was disappointing. Yeah, I think we'll just leave it at that. It was, one of those things. Hopefully there's nothing to the Marcus Rashford and Erik Ten Hag thing, and hopefully we're just taking it on face value. Now, I just want to pull out some of the quotes that Erik Ten Hag said about the performance and just see what everyone thinks about that. So, speaking in his post-match press conference, this is how he described the team's performances. So, no, but we now have a start, he said. The performance was good, but the score we are not happy with. We are disappointed with the score. It is clear, I know one thing for sure in football, that there is a long way to go, and when you play in the quality we now deliver, the points will come. The goals will come. Now, look, if they keep playing like that, yeah, the points will definitely come. Like, their defending was brilliant, like, for the majority of the game. Like, it was good. And you can see that the defence has clearly got an identity that, I think is creating a solid platform for the players to perform in. The goals, are they going to come? Like, I just think, and I said it in the summer, the need for a clinical striker was missed. I think that if we'd bought one in the summer, we could have actually really challenged at the top end of the table. Like, you just look at the other teams, and like, they've got Haaland's obviously at City. He scores a goal every game. That's the kind of player that we need. A player that we know more often than not is going to score a goal. Tottenham went out and bought Solanke. He finally got off the mark. So, you can see the value of it. Liverpool obviously have Mo Salah, and look, it's like Diaz has taken over the Mane role now properly, because now he's scoring literally every game. And then even Arsenal have like Saka, that, is pretty regular forward, like in terms of delivering goals and stuff like that. So I just think we missed the boat. And I don't know if they can rectify it in January, but it's going to be a long time to wait between now and then. We've just really got to hope that we can develop the finishing skills of our frontline players, because that's all it's lacking. Especially on the weekend, that was all that was lacking, was the goals. But look, he's got to start picking up points. As I said after the Southampton game, if you stop picking up points, all of a sudden, we're now a result away from probably him being under huge pressure again. Because imagine if they lost to Tottenham at home next weekend, all of a sudden we're sitting there and we've got 7 points from 6 games, 7 from 18. It's just not good. It's got to stop dropping points. We've got to start scoring goals. I don't know what the answer is, because we certainly created, as Erik ten Hag said, we created enough chances to win that game comfortably. We should have been out of over the hill and far away by half time, but unfortunately we just weren't, and that's disappointing in and of itself. So look, that was disappointing. In more positive news though, the women's team played West Ham at home at Old Trafford to kick off the WSL campaign, and they had a great start. They won 3-0, so goals were not a problem for the ladies. And also Gacy, I don't even know if that's how you say it, the Brazilian player, got the first goal, and that was followed up by a rocket from Leah Galton and a header by Grace Clinton, who also actually happened to net on her debut for the women's team. So well done to them. Great stuff. Hopefully the men can take some notes about scoring the goals, and we'll be able to move forward and go on from there. Now, the next game we've got, obviously, is Wednesday night at the 8 o'clock kickoff against FC20 from none other than Ten Hag's the Netherlands. So, look, you would expect Dutch team coming to Old Trafford, Europa League, should be a win. Should be a win, you would think. Now, the key question is who's going to start this game? Like, what kind of a team is he going to put out? Is he going to put out his full strong 11, or is he going to do some rotation? You would think that Eriksen surely can't start 4 games in a row, considering it'd be like literally 4 games in about 10 days. I just can't see that happening myself at his age. So you would think that Ugarte probably definitely comes back in for another run there. You'd probably even think maybe Casemiro comes in for Mainu as well, and they go to a similar midfield that they had against Barnsley. Wouldn't surprise me. And I actually don't think you wouldn't be surprised if you saw some defensive changes as well. In some more positive news, Malacia was back on the training ground. So he is nearing. They're being very cautious of him, which is understandable considering how long he has been out for. But he is on the way back, it looks like. And Luke Shaw doesn't look like he's too far away. So, these players are coming back. The squad is going to be full and fit. So that, in theory, in itself should lead to greater competition for places within the team, which will hopefully lead to better results the longer we go into the season. So that's definitely going to be something to watch. And we just see what lineup he does. I'm going to do a little quick short before that game with some questions about what I'm hoping to see. But hopefully we can see some more goals, because we just need to get the practice of shooting the goals. I know I'm banging on like a friggin' harp or whatever, but if we don't start scoring, we're not going to be winning games, and that just means that the pressure is going to heap itself back on Erik ten Hag. Now, Ineos have been out and about doing their things, so the fan regeneration survey has come out to fans. So if you're like me, you have received an email with the link to the survey. It's only open for a certain amount of time, so make sure you get on and do it, because it's your chance to have a say on what you think should happen with the stadium and the area surrounding it. So I think we've got a pretty rough idea that Ineos actually want to create a brand new stadium. I think they might have they've created a task force. Now, the task force doesn't look into the funding of the stadium. It's just purely about what they're going to do with the stadium and surrounding area. The whole funding thing, is going to be interesting. So, like, obviously, when Arsenal and Tottenham built their new stadiums, the funding was obviously coming out of the club, not from the owners per se, which subsequently meant that they didn't spend that much on players for a couple of years or whatever because of the fact that they were paying that money to basically build their new stadiums. Now, United are in a weird position because how do they fund the stadium? Obviously, PSR has been a consistently road bump that is sitting there in the background because we've been poor for a number of years in terms of moving and shifting players. But in regards to the stadium, like how it gets funded, ideally, we want Ineos to come out and Jim Ratcliffe basically to say, yeah, I'll fund it out of my personal money, because if he does that, it's not going to cost the club anything, and he can actually do that, and it's not going to conflict with PSR rules. You would hate to see the ticket prices go up for fans in order to fund the stadium. I mean, like, we already live in a day and age where, the cost of living is going up. It doesn't matter which part of the world you live in, it is going up. And, they upped the season ticket price this year after we finished 8th, and it didn't go down very well with the fans. And I dare say another hike would not go down very well with the fans either, and probably not look good for Ineos itself. But that's something to keep in mind of. But it's basically asking you your views to actually what you think should happen. Now, I've been to Old Trafford. I've been very lucky enough to live in London for 3 years, and I've visited Old Trafford for between about 15 times for 15 different games. I've been lucky enough to see a Manchester derby. I've seen all the big teams actually there, except Arsenal and Chelsea and Liverpool. I've seen most of the other teams actually come to Old Trafford. I was actually there for when Ronaldo scored that hat-trick against Tottenham when he during his second stint. So look, the ground is special, and like the area around it as well. Like, I obviously used to love. I'm a football fan. I'm a hooligan at heart. I love my chance, and I used to go to the Bishop's Blaze up the road, have 10 pints, sing my heart out, and then go down to the game and watch the game completely pissed. Yeah, I could tell you some stories about that. But like, it's a really experience. Like, Old Trafford is like the statue out there of the Trinity, Sir Alex Ferguson. It's all there. All those memories happen at that ground. But I think the thing that it comes down to is, when I wasn't there, it's hard to believe that, like, Manchester United used to be the best team in the world, and they used to have the best facilities and the best stadium in the world. And it's safe to say we don't have the best team. We don't have the best facilities, even though they are fixing Carrington. They put a lot of money into that. It's off-put the women's team a little bit because they've had to move out of their new change room so the first team can move in, so they can renovate the first team ones. But that's well overdue because Carrington had been neglected under the Glazers' reign. And now the stadium's the next one. And having been there, I just think that you probably need to create a new stadium because, like, the way technology goes and like, I've been to some amazing stadiums. I've been to the MCG in Melbourne. I've been to some of the big ones across Europe. I've been to the London Stadium. I didn't like the London Stadium when I went there. I just feel like that's how you do a stadium wrong. It's like you get a football field on a racing track, like an athletics track. It's just doesn't make for a good atmosphere. But yeah, look, I would say that the best thing they could do is create. Like, I've seen all these AI created like new stadium looking Old Traffords and whatever. Look, it's still always going to be Old Trafford. Everyone's going to always say it's Old Trafford, but I just think they need a new stadium, someone that befits the vision of where Ineos want to take the club, and that's back to the top. And we want a stadium that's going to be like the envy of everyone else in Europe and especially in England, and that's what we want. I think as fans, we want the best for our team, and that's definitely where I come from. And I don't think, as much as you could refurbish Old Trafford, I just don't think it's worth it. I mean, like, you got to move with the times. Or today's society moves through phases and things so quickly that I think you just got to back it in and go with a new stadium. And I'd definitely like to see that sort of avenue go, and then you can regenerate the area around Old Trafford. You can probably even turn Old Trafford itself, like, lose some of the seating and make it a smaller stadium, but then have the women's team there, or the under 21s or the under 18s all play their games there. So it's like they're still playing at Old Trafford rather than they go out to the freaking farm now to play, and it's all out of the way and there's no railways to get to the games. I think that is definitely a way of looking at it, and potentially then still having the Old Trafford there and then promoting those other teams when they're using it. I just don't know. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments. That's definitely what I would be looking at if I was to go one way or the other. I'd go the new stadium and go that build. And then how Ineos fund it, I got no idea, but hopefully, they can fund it. Maybe they can get some government backing to level up the north. I don't know. That'll be an interesting topic for another day, really. But yeah, look, so those are the plans, stadium plans. How's it going to go down? Who really knows? But look, hopefully they just crack on with training this week, and hopefully we get a good result against FC20 when they visit on Wednesday night. I'll join you for a review of that game and a preview of the massive home game on Sunday night when we welcome Tottenham Hotspur, who normally would be easy beats, especially when they come to Old Trafford. But we will see. Ange Ball, hopefully we can put an end to Ange Ball and send it packing into the bin. But join me for that preview and the review of the FC20 game midweek. Probably do that on Thursday or Friday, just depending on how busy I am during the week. All right, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you like and subscribe. D in it out.